James, welcome. Floor is yours. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You want to need this or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Buenos dias. Good morning. Can we have a big round of applause for Bruno and Felipe for improvising? Fantastic. Fantastic. Well done. So, welcome. Today, I'm here to talk to you about an idea called super collaboration and how we can use our human creativity and our curiosity and combine that with the ability to collaborate with both people and machines. But first of all, I want to say what a pleasure it is being back here in Bogota, Colombia. Some of the greatest food, best coffee, most amazing music in Latin America. You see, before I did what I do today as a keynote speaker on creativity, innovation, and future trends, my old job when I was younger, when I was a kid, I was a musician many years ago. So being a musician is an interesting job. Trying to find my slide here. Oh, here we go. So being here in Latin America, for someone like me as a drummer, as a percussionist, is like Mecca. This is where some of the greatest music in the world is from. And a few years ago, I was working in Silicon Valley, and I was the vice president of a technology company. And my job at this technology company was to sign some of the top musicians in the world and help them create online schools, online music schools. One of the gentlemen I signed was this man. His name's Luis Conte. This is us. So Luis Conte is from Cuba. He is probably one of the world's greatest percussion players. Luis Conte was the person who took the traditional rhythms of Latin America and put them into American pop music. So if, for example, if you go and see a concert or listen to an album by Shakira or James Taylor, the other James Taylor, or the Eagles or Phil Collins, it's going to be Luis Conte. That's the percussionist in this. And Luis taught me a lot of different things about music, about all the different rhythms from different parts of Peru and Colombia and Ecuador and all the different countries. But the main thing that he taught me was he taught me the difference between a good band or a good Latin ensemble and a great band and a great Latin ensemble. You see, a good band can seem like basically five guys, five individuals, all doing their own things, but it sounds a little bit disjointed. But a great band, a great Latin ensemble, sounds like five people doing individual things, but it comes together as one. They collaborate. It's the thing that makes you want to move, that makes you want to dance. And if we think about this from a business context, this idea of collaboration, that when you lock into something, when you find that great collaborator or that partner, it creates amazing things. The Carlos Slim, the great Mexican entrepreneur, said, don't try to be and do everything yourself. Rather, create alliances and partnerships with others. Now, the trick is knowing who to partner with, who to create collaboration with. You're at this event today in Comex. Great partner for you and your business. So today, I'm going to talk to you about how we can deepen our collaboration, both with people, but also with machines, with artificial intelligence. Because the world needs more collaboration today than any other time in history. COVID-19 changed how we thought about our lives and our work. But really what it did is it just fast-forwarded us into a new future. This future is being defined by the 3 Ds of deglobalization, digitization, and decarbonization. You know, you and I have lived a pretty incredible time in history. For the past 50 years, we saw one of the greatest periods of globalizations. It took hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. It made our world, our countries, more innovative, more prosperous. but it also made them more vulnerable as well. I mean, incidents like the container ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal, if you remember that, showed us the fragility of our supply chains. But it also gave us some pretty funny internet memes in the process. Meanwhile, because of sustainability, the climate crisis, ESG, this is going to require all of us to create new types of collaborations. If we think about many of the technology products that we have today, previously we just thought about how that product was created and distributed and sold, but now we have to think about the total lifetime of that particular product, the ESG component. But perhaps the most interesting thing is this age of artificial intelligence that we're living in today, where exponential technologies like AI, robotics, machine learning will replace many blue and white-collar jobs. The University of Oxford estimates that nearly 50% of jobs could disappear over the next few years because of these technologies. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs, the bank, about 3 weeks ago, published a study, and they said that nearly 300 million jobs are going to disappear or be radically transformed by these technologies. Now, in this age of AI, we're going to see lots of new opportunities. We're going to see the rise of things like the metaverse, AR, VR, IoT, all the things that you're involved in as well. It's actually a pretty amazing time to be alive. We're moving into this new age of phygital, where we see the blending of our physical and digital identities. Those things really start to blur. Now, here in Latin America, you're going to have the benefit of this. It's estimated by 2030, artificial intelligence will add about 5% to your GDP. Industries such as pharmaceutical, healthcare, automotive, financial services, logistics, tech, and retail are going to see the biggest impacts in the medium term. But recent studies, and this one is from the IDC, say that in the short term, the industries that will see the biggest changes, will find the biggest opportunity from artificial intelligence, will be banking, professional services, and retail. And in those areas, it's areas like customer service, sales process, IT optimization, which have this area for possibilities. Now, different countries are going at different speeds. Actually, Colombia, Peru, Chile were some of the first countries to have their own national artificial intelligence policies. In fact, many studies have shown that Colombia's national AI strategy is being rated higher than the United States and Germany's as well. Now, different countries are taking different stances on AI. If you look at here in Colombia, what they're doing is they're creating a regulatory framework, what we call a sandbox, to decide what they do. In other countries, they're focusing more on providing education for newer people coming into the workforce on things like AI. Every country, every company is trying to find its way. And as we heard from the previous talk, there's a lot of scare stories just now. I think I saw yesterday 300 artificial intelligence experts wrote a letter saying they think this could wipe out us humans as a species. So many people are very worried about these technologies as well, from data, job security, and even elections. Everyone in this room today will be affected by artificial intelligence in one way or another. The other day, I was speaking in Alula, which is in Saudi Arabia. So a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a beautiful part of the world. And I was speaking at this event alongside Ada. Ada is the world's first ultra-realistic artist robot. Ada has been trained in the world's history of art. She sees through the cameras in her eyes. She listens through the microphones in her ears. She creates beautiful paintings and poetry through AI and through the robotics. So maybe next year, when you come to this IncomeX event, it won't be a human speaking on this stage like me. I'll have been replaced by a machine. But what I think is more likely is these technologies will actually augment our human creativity and our human curiosity. So, having thought about this and knowing this, where do we stand? How is this going to affect our businesses? Now, some people think that all of the benefits of artificial intelligence will go to the makers of things like the big generative AI systems like ChatGPT, companies like OpenAI. But what I believe is a better way of thinking of this opportunity with artificial intelligence is in the same way that we saw refrigeration happen 100 or so years ago. The first companies to benefit from refrigeration was the companies that invented the technology, the initial core technology. But what we saw is entrepreneurs and businesses use these technologies to allow them to do different things. We saw the rise of companies here in the region, companies like Coca-Cola, that used refrigeration as a powerful new tool to grow their business. So that's where we are today. We can start to see AI as a useful tool in this process. So what do you need to do to not just survive, but thrive in this new age of AI? There is one set of skills, perhaps more than any other, that you need to develop in yourself and your team and your organization to take advantage of this new age. Now, here's the good news. Every single person in this room just now already has these skills. My job today is to show you how you can develop them. And these skills are around creative collaboration. And don't just take it from me. According to LinkedIn, creativity is now the #1 most in-demand soft skills that employers are looking for, while collaboration is #3. That's because machines will take away many of the non-creative, the routine tasks that we currently do in our jobs. And it's that combination between the creative and the collaboration that is going to hold us the most opportunity. You see, creativity is about bringing new ideas to the mind. Innovation is about bringing new ideas to the world. But without creativity, there is no innovation. Creativity is the engine of innovation. Every device that you have on you just now, every business that you're involved in started in the mind of people. And then they used this and they collaborated with other people to create amazing things. In fact, Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, one of Asia's richest men, real pioneer in artificial intelligence, was asked a question the other day. What skills should we be developing in ourselves and our teams to take advantage of this AI? And he said, don't bother trying to compete with a machine on something that could do better, faster, and cheaper than you. You need to focus on that one advantage that you have as a human. Your creativity, your curiosity, your ability to innovate. This is me. I was brought up in the Highlands of Scotland, the land of whiskey, golf, castles, the movie Braveheart. As a child, my parents would make me walk up the summits of the mountains near where I lived, but they would make me walk up them dressed in a kilt. So for the uninitiated, a kilt is a traditional dress or a skirt that the Scotsman wears. I won't say what you do or don't wear underneath this kilt. And you can think of all these changes that we're seeing just now, because of AI, machine learning, like a landscape that's slowly being flooded. But this is a landscape of human skills or competences. See, in the lowlands, we have skills like arithmetic, memorization. In the foothills, we have skills like logic, chess playing. And in the high mountain peaks, we have skills like emotional intelligence, critical thinking. Now, what happened 50 years ago was the first wave of automation came through, drowned out the lowlands, took away lots of blue-collar jobs, but left most of us fine. But today, this flood is reaching the foothills, and those knowledge workers, like everyone in this room just now, is going to have to contemplate trying to get to higher ground. Creativity lies at the peak of this mountain, above the flooded plains and foothills. In fact, if you want your company to be the most innovative company in your industry, in your company, it's much more likely to happen for those companies that invest in the creativity of their people. Those companies that invest in the creativity of their people score higher on levels of innovation. They have more satisfied customers. They're more competitive in their environment. And as you have this war for talent, the new generations that are coming through, the Zoomers that are coming into your workforce, they are much more likely to want to work for companies where they can see that the work that they're going to be doing is going to be creative. And also for other people to see them as being creative as well. You see, previous generations used the term innovation much more. The younger generation that's coming through use creativity, that term, a little bit more. And they are very different. Creativity is about bringing new ideas to the mind. Innovation is about bringing new ideas to the world. But if you want to attract the brightest and best to your company, it's going to require that you're seen as being a creative company. But we have a problem. You see, most people in the world today do not consider themselves to be creative. Let me see a show of hands here just now. How many people in the room just now would describe themselves as being creative? Let me see a quick show of hands. Okay. So we have about maybe 40% of the room just now, which is very average for Latin America. North America is about 55% of people think they're creative. Here in Latin America, it's about 40%. In China, Japan, it's as low as 30%. In fact, there was recently a study done that showed that while IQ levels around the world have been increasing for many years, creativity levels have actually been declining. So what's going on? If we know that creativity is going to be one of the most important skills in this new age of AI, yet the majority of the people in our companies and in our countries don't consider themselves to be creative, that's a huge problem. Because I believe that every single person in this room today has almost unlimited creative potential. It's what we do over the course of our lives that's important. And there are 3 myths that we tell ourselves as adults that's holding you back from doing your most creative and therefore your most innovative work. And we're going to get rid of these myths just now. So the first myth is the myth of the creative type. The myth of the creative type says that there are creative people and there are uncreative people. You're either born creative or you're not. That creativity is passed on like eye color or hair color. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's no such thing as a creativity gene. We are all born with this unlimited creative potential. A better way of thinking about creativity is on a continuum with small c creativity at one side, big C creativity at the other. So small c creativity is when you do those things in your life and your work which are new, novel, and useful. New, novel, and useful. Big C creativity, on the other hand, is when you do those things in your life and your job which are new, novel, and useful, and they change the domain or the field or the industry in which you work. Let me give you an example. I'm a fan of TikTok. I love watching TikTok videos. And at TikTok, you have lots of examples of small c creativity. Things which are new, novel, and useful, but they don't really change anything in any way. But what you're trying to do in your work is push yourself towards doing big C creativity. David Velez, founder of Nubank in Brazil, did work which is new, novel, and useful, changed the world of finance in Brazil. Frida Kahlo did work which is new, novel, and useful, changed the world of art. I don't know if anyone knows who this person is at all. Does anyone know this? This is Beto, the inventor of Zumba. Okay? So he did work which was new, novel, and useful and changed the world of exercise and health and fitness. Elon Musk is doing work which is new, novel, and useful, changing the world of travel. But what all creativity researchers agree on is that we all operate somewhere on this continuum. Your job is to unlock your creative potential so you can do this big C creative work. Now, the second myth that holds you back from doing your most creative and therefore your most innovative work is the myth that you can't teach or train creativity or creative collaboration. I could have measured all of your creativity levels this morning when you came in using a test that's called the Torrance test. And then I could teach you a couple of techniques and tools, and I could measure your creativity levels again. I'll actually see your creativity levels increase. So creativity is something that you can become better at, you can become more skilled at. It's like learning a language. But the third, and perhaps the biggest myth that's holding you back from doing your most creative work and allowing you to protect yourself in this age of AI is the myth of the lone creative genius. This is the myth that we sometimes hear that creativity is purely an individual thing, something about the I, the individual, the ego. Nothing could be further from the truth. The first 20 years of my working career, I managed the careers of high-profile rock stars. So I worked with members of the Rolling Stones, multiple Grammy Award winners. It's an interesting job. You deal with some pretty big egos. And sometimes I'd be standing there at this show at the side of the stage, watching as my artist performed. And if I looked on the stage, I could see the artist with the spotlight on them. But if I looked to my left, I could see the hundreds, the tens of thousands of people in the audience enjoying the show. But if I looked to my right, I could see backstage and behind the scenes. Now, you as an audience member usually only ever get to see the singer with the spotlight on them. You rarely get a chance to see the 100, the 200 people backstage who are just as much a part of making a creative and innovative and successful show as the person with the spotlight on them. See, the media loves the idea of the lone creative genius, the singer with the spotlight on them, or the CEO on the front cover of that business magazine, as if that CEO had single-handedly built that business. But you know it's a lie. It's fiction. Because here's the thing. Creativity is collaborative. Creativity is a team sport. And there are 3 keys to unlocking creative collaboration if you want your company to be the most innovative in the field. If you want to take on this opportunity that's being presented to you now with artificial intelligence and machine learning to grow your business to levels that perhaps you can't even imagine right now, I'm going to give you these keys today. So the first key to unlocking this idea of creative collaboration is human plus human creative collaboration, sometimes referred to as creative pairs. If you look at innovative organizations, what you will often find is they're just big groupings of lots of these human plus human creative collaborations. 2 different but complementary individuals who are willing to work together to help develop each other's ideas, to push each other's ideas, to stress test each other's ideas. Lennon and McCartney, Zuckerberg and Sandberg, who do we have? The co-founders of Rappi here in Colombia, the co-founders of Story, which I think they're in Mexico. Hewlett-Packard, I don't know if we have anyone from Hewlett HP here today. This again, Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera. Not an easy relationship, but they pushed each other onto higher levels of their work. The other day, I was doing an event with Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple. And Woz and I were talking about his creative collaboration with Steve Jobs. So Woz was the shy engineer backstage and behind the scenes, while Jobs was the master marketer and deal maker. But Apple would have never become Apple if you didn't have these 2 different but complementary individuals. And over the course of your careers, you will have multiple creative pairings in that. For example, think about Apple. First creative pairing, the first $1 billion from Apple came from the creative collaboration of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. But the first $1 trillion at Apple came from the creative collaboration between Steve Jobs and Jony Ive, and that was about product innovation. But the next $1 trillion came from the collaboration of Tim Cook and Steve Jobs, and that was about supply chain innovation. In fact, Incomex, this company, was started by a father and son creative collaboration. Because sometimes when you have this collaboration and you have these very different personalities, you can go to that other person to help stress test and help develop your ideas better than you can have done on your own. In fact, the other day, I was talking to Sebastian Mallaby from the Washington Post. He wrote this great book. It's called The Power Law, which looks at the history of venture capital funding. You see, some of the greatest investment companies and VC funds in the world use creative pairings. So, for example, Sequoia Capital, that company was founded by the creative pairing of Doug Leone and Mike Moritz. Doug excelled at operations, while Mike Moritz was an excellent strategist. But that company make no decision until both of these brains come together. So think about, in your own work, who are those creative pairings? The other day, I just saw Bruce Springsteen. I think he was doing a concert in the UK. I think he fell off stage, yesterday as well, unfortunately. So Bruce Springsteen's had a fantastic creative collaboration for many years with this guy. His name's Steve Van Zandt. It was Steve Van Zandt who told a very young Bruce Springsteen, I believe in you. In fact, not only do I believe in you and your talent, I think the band should have your name. And I think you should be the main singer on the band. Because sometimes these creative collaborations are like mentor-mentee relationships. In fact, you might know Steve Van Zandt from his role in the hit TV show The Sopranos, where he plays the Silvio Dante, the consigliere to the mob boss Tony Soprano. So think about, in your own work, who is that other person that you go to with your ideas? Who helps you develop your ideas, who stress tests your ideas, who asks you those kind of difficult questions, who makes your ideas better? If you don't have that person currently in your work, maybe this event is your opportunity to find the other person, the yin to your yang. The second key, though, to improving creative collaboration is human to the power of X, what we think of as collaborative teams. Now, there are many ways to think about innovation in your company. And I'm going to just talk about two types of innovation that you can use in your business. I'm a cyclist. Most weekends, you're going to find me cycling around hills and mountains somewhere in the world. Now, the world of professional cycling changed one day in 2003. You see, up until 2003, the British cycling team had never won the Tour de France, which is cycling's biggest road race. It only won one gold medal in the Olympic Games. Basically, us British, we weren't very good at cycling. We got beaten by the Colombians, by everyone else would beat us. We weren't very good. But they brought in a guy called Dave Brailsford to change all of that. Fast forward, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, his cycle team won 7 out of 10 gold medals available in track cycling, and then repeated that success 4 years later in London. So how did they do it? How did a team go from being bottom of the rankings to winning all of the medals, all of the awards? Well, they applied a theory in innovation. It's called the aggregation of marginal gains. They gambled that if they can improve every component that goes into competing, in this case on a bike, and improved each element by just 1%, they would achieve a significant aggregated increase in performance. They said, let's forget about perfection, let's focus on progression. So first they start with the big things. Okay, how can we make every component on the bike 1% stronger this month, 1% lighter, 1% more resilient? Then they move to the athletes. How can we increase the amount of power the cyclist outputs by 1% this week, 1% the week after? In fact, they even took their own mattresses and pillows onto the tour so the cyclists could improve their recovery rate for the next day. Every week, the team would come together to look for opportunities to find these 1% gains. It became like a game for everyone. Okay, how can we improve the amount of the weight of the bike by 1% this week? How can we increase the amount of power the cyclist outputs by 1% a week? Everyone, from the cyclists to the physios, to the coaches, to the suppliers, to the cyclists themselves, looked for opportunities to find these 1% gains. Aggregated together, it made them unstoppable as a team. This is how we can use this idea of creative collaboration. Now, to do this, to create this sense of collaboration, to drive innovation, we have to have something very special in the culture. It's called psychological safety. Psychological safety was an idea first developed by Amy Edmondson from Harvard University. Psychological safety is simply the shared belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. See, you have to create that feel in your organization that everyone, regardless of their job title, regardless of their seniority, has the ability to change that business, to look for innovations, to drive growth, or to reduce costs. So how do we do this? How do we create this sense of psychological safety? Well, one way of doing it is building a sense of inclusive innovation. This is a way of doing it. This is Adobe, a software company from the US. They have these. These are called kick boxes. They're just a very simple red cardboard box. Inside the box, you're going to find Post-it notes, pens, a notebook for bad ideas, because we need bad ideas to get good ideas. And there's one more thing. $1,000 prepaid debit card that the team can spend however they want without ever having to justify that purchase to a manager. For the price of funding a single $1 million project, Adobe was able to get its people to generate 1,000 new ideas to grow the business and to reduce costs. The CEO of Adobe said, we only need one of these ideas to work for the whole project to pay for itself. It's been so successful today that companies like Cisco, SAP, Caterpillar, Procter & Gamble, Gates Foundation, the World Economic Forum use versions of these. So every time a team spot an opportunity to enter a new market or to launch a new product or to find some way to innovate, they ask for one of these kits. These kits get sent to them. The team developed the initial prototype. Now, in the case of Adobe, these 1,000 red boxes go to the senior executive team. A few are then given blue boxes. Adobe won't say what is in the blue boxes, but it's additional resources and finance to make that thing happen. But to date, 26 blue boxes have come from the 1,000 red boxes. But here's what it does. In the culture of the organization, it creates that sense of psychological safety. It creates that sense that everyone, regardless of your job title, has the ability to innovate and to grow the business. And the final key to unlocking this idea of creative collaboration is human plus machine creative collaboration, sometimes referred to as super creativity. And for you, I think this is going to be one of the most exciting areas and the most exciting things to be involved in. See, this is your ability to augment you in the work you do with exponential technologies like AI and machine learning. We sometimes refer to these hybrid human plus machine creative collaboration systems as centaurs, after the half-human, half-beast creatures of ancient Greek mythology. Give you an example. If you ever watched the movie Iron Man, they've got the Tony Stark character in that movie, played by Robert Downey Jr., and he has an AI assistant called Jarvis. And together, Tony Stark, the human, and Jarvis, the machine, they create and they build these amazing things. But today, this isn't a fantasy or a fiction. Today, this is a reality. For example, in the world of chess, we have what are called centaur chess players. A centaur chess player is a human chess player paired and working alongside an AI. Now, here's the thing about a centaur chess player. It will beat the strongest human chess player any day of the week. But it will also be an artificial intelligence working on its own. That's because centaurs combine our ability as humans to be creative, to be curious, to ask questions, to be strategic, with a machine's ability to be tactical and crunch huge amounts of data. Human plus machine creative collaboration. Because as humans, we're creators and makers of things, of products and services, companies and countries. It used to be the case in the past that ideas, innovations had to be purely developed by us, the humans. But today, we can collaborate with machines to do amazing things. For example, one of my clients is IKEA. And so if IKEA wants to design a chair today, it goes to an AI. It said, okay, design me a chair. I want it to support this much weight, cost this much, be made from these materials. The AI will then create thousands of different designs based upon the criteria that you've selected. The human teams, we sit and we look at these and we decide which ones do we want to prototype and test. Now, the final design can look pretty weird, pretty wacky, but it conforms to all the criteria you've selected. Yesterday, I came here on an Airbus plane. Many of the component parts on Airbuses are now made using this human plus machine creative collaboration. The humans decide what they want to do. The AI does the first draft, the first pass. The humans build up the prototype. And the final design is stronger, more lightweight, more durable, more sustainable than the kind of thing that a human could have created on its own. Human plus machine creative collaboration, super creativity at work. And you have a number of pillars at this event today. So let's think about how this idea of human plus machine creative collaboration will start to affect the work of your customers and clients. We're already seeing it, for example, in the world of retail. Next month, I don't know if we have anyone here from Apple, But next month, we'll probably see the launch of the new Apple glasses. Now, there's lots of contention over what these will be, but probably this version or the next versions will use a lot of augmented reality. They will have a heads-up display unit like a fighter pilot would have. That will provide the wearer with live data on whoever or whatever they're looking at. So, for example, it means that as engineers walk around factories wearing these glasses, using AR and IoT, they're enabled to get information immediately on how different systems are performing. City planners can walk around their city streets and see how different systems are working, how things could be optimized in different ways. And here's the interesting thing. When we connect things like this to your corporate CRMs, and then you switch on facial recognition, interesting things start to happen. It means that next year, when I come to this, if I come to this event and any of you are wearing these, as you're walking around, you're instantaneously able to see, this is Carlos, the vice president of this company. This is Manuela. She's the senior director of this business. We're connected on LinkedIn, but we haven't really kind of spoken yet. In fact, it means that if I'm someone working in a car showroom, as my customers are coming into the car showroom and I'm wearing my augmented reality glasses, I'm immediately able to get information on those customers. I can immediately see, this person has purchased that vehicle from us before. This person has been looking on our website and thinking about this potential model. This person has a higher credit rating than this person. Therefore, I'm going to go and have a conversation with this person. Very soon, every salesperson will be augmented in this way. And in the same way that Zoom, Microsoft Teams was just an evolution of us doing meetings, things like the metaverse will see a further evolution. They will allow us to create and collaborate in ways that we can't even imagine right now. We'll be able to create new types of virtual workspaces for ourselves as well. And that barrier between someone being there in person versus virtually is going to begin to blur. But as I mentioned at the start, one of the biggest areas that we'll see this idea of super creativity, human plus machine collaboration, and the use of AI is around customer service. This provides us with a huge opportunity to improve the customer experience. So, for example, I live in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, most of the time. UAE is a very forward-thinking country when it comes to artificial intelligence. In fact, we have a minister of AI. That's how important the country is looked at in terms of artificial intelligence. So when I go to pay my energy bill, for example, which is a company called Diwa, I can immediately start to have a conversation with a chatbot. But unlike the previous generations of chatbots, which just use rules, the newer versions of chatbots use ChatGPT. What this does is this allows me to have a more nuanced conversation with this. In fact, this advert that I'll show you just now, this whole advert was created by artificial intelligence. One person using an AI. Let me just show you just now.
Introducing a seamless digital experience with Diwa Smart App. Reimagined design that unveils the latest usability trends, fully powered by AI.
As a consumer, I can manage my consumption with just a click.
Using the Diwa app, I can charge my EV in more than 350 green charger stations in Dubai.
The exclusive offers of Diwa Store make me and my family even happier.
The app helps me to track technical applications easily.
The app also provides adding value services for vendors and students. The Diwa Smart App is an all-in-one application. Download
So here's
it
the
now.
interesting thing about that ad. The people on that, none of them were humans. None of them were real. All of those were artificially created humans. They used testimonials that they'd received from their real customers. All the script for that video was entirely created by an artificial intelligence. All the imagery that you saw there was created by AI as well. Now, when we think of customer service, we're going to start to see this new acceleration of the use of more higher quality AI. For example, I was in Brazil, in Recife, in Brazil the other day, and there's a bank there called Bradesco. Many of you might have as clients. Now, they have 5,000 branches. They even have a branch that's on a boat that goes down the Amazonian River. What they did was they brought in the first generation of AI. It's called BIA. And that version of AI is an AI-powered chatbot, so it had to learn Portuguese, but it also had to learn Brazilian culture. It had to learn the regional accents, the way that different people ask different questions. Over 6 months, this AI was trained on 62 different products that the bank offers. It could understand 100% of written questions and 83% of spoken ones after just 5 months of training. And after 10 months, the system was answering 96% of all questions correctly. Today, it answers nearly 300,000 questions a month with a 95% accuracy rate. Response times used to be around 10 minutes with this bank. Now, they're mere seconds. But what this enables you to do is to focus your customer support team on those more difficult, those higher quality, more challenging questions that your customers have, and have the AI take away many of the routine tasks that we currently do. One of the other booths that we have here is around education, and I have a real passion for education. I used to work in education. So we're going to start to see the rise of super creative educators and trainers. For example, I do a lot of stuff in China, and as many of you know, China is very big on AI in education. These are the cameras in the school classrooms. They tell whether a student is bored, is happy, is not paying attention, is falling asleep, for example. These are new headsets. They're linked to their neural networks on their brain. They're telling them, the teacher, which students are paying attention, where information is going in, where they're not really taking in that information. All this data is in the cloud. It provides instantaneous information to the teachers and the education authorities. It means that school headmasters, headmistresses can immediately see, this teacher, they're not performing very well. The students in this classroom are not focused enough, for example. But what it does is it provides a powerful new tool for that teacher to enable them to decide, okay, this student here, they're not taking in this information. How can I change things? How can I spend a bit more time focused on this student? This same type of technology is being used by lots of training companies. Today, Emirates Airlines trains many of their new employees using virtual reality with these kind of heads-up units like this. So basically, there's virtual digital twins of the airplanes and the airports inside these, so they do their training first in these spaces virtually before they ever step inside of the plane. In fact, many of the big airports today, like Changi in Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, have created digital twins of their entire airports. The other day, I was speaking in Cancun, Mexico, for a company called Lufthansa Sky Chefs. They provide 300 million meals a year for all the airlines. So if you have a meal on a plane, it's likely it's Lufthansa Sky Chefs that supplied it. So what they do today is they train all of the people that bring the food onto the planes, those engineers, the people that are driving the trucks, they train them first in the virtual world, in the metaverse, before they ever bring them on site. Human plus machine, creative collaboration, new ways to collaborate. But for me, perhaps the most exciting area is around healthcare. This provides us some of the biggest opportunities. For example, we already have with clients like mine, like Medtronic, augmenting the surgeon. It means that we now have robotic surgery. The robot does some parts of the surgery while the human surgeon comes in for other parts. The surgeon is able to practice parts of that operation in a virtual world first before they ever get in front of the patient. Many of the services that are currently only available in rich countries for healthcare are soon going to be available to anyone because of these generative AI technologies. For example, we're seeing a real mental health crisis around the world. I think here in Latin America, 1 in 5 people will suffer from a mental health illness over the course of their life. But there's very few therapists. There's not enough therapists for the people. So today, many companies are using things like ChatGPT to be virtual therapists for their employees. One insurer that I work with in the United States is now rolling this out for 80,000 of their insured people and also their employees. So those people immediately have access to a therapist. You can ask questions. You can start to build the relationship. Now, is this AI as good as a human therapist? Interestingly, the AI scores higher on levels of empathy than many of the real-world therapists. But really what it does is it takes some of the strain away. That means any citizen can get access to high-quality mental health care using these technologies. And in the same way that we have smart classrooms, we now have smart hospital wards. Using the same technology I showed you before that they're using in China, some of the things that you're seeing here at this event, it means we have these interconnected hospitals. What it immediately tells is whether this patient is moving or not, whether they're uncomfortable, whether they're unhappy, whether we need to maybe bring a nurse in, whether there needs to be some type of intervention in this way. Does this remove the need of the nurse or the doctor? No. It augments them. It provides them with a powerful new tool. And I know many of you in this room are marketers. Your job is to market the products, the services that you sell. So where we're seeing so much excitement just now is on generative AI, like ChatGPT, but there's lots of other ones, Bard and other things that are coming along. For example, one of my clients is called Puratos. They make baking products. If you go to a Starbucks or a Costco, for example, many of the baked products in there are coming from this company. Today, what this means is their marketing teams in the past used to have to spend millions of dollars on creating marketing content. But today, they can simply collaborate with an AI on doing this. So for example, they said, write me an article, write me a 1,700-word article on the topic of food innovation for good. The AI will immediately create a really great article. It is better than 98% of what human marketers could create. And also because it speaks in 50 different languages, you can immediately say, okay, write that whole article, write it now in Spanish, for example. One of my team, or my company, he's creating 4,000 SEO landing pages per month using these technologies as well. This is augmenting the role of the marketer. And for those of you that aren't in marketing, but perhaps you have a more business development role, they also provide us with a great new tool. So for example, if you're thinking about bringing a new product into a market, you could say to the AI, create me a detailed B2B marketing plan for the launch of this new product into the market. The AI will immediately go and create it and help it develop it. Now, here's the thing that brings it back to us, the humans. The AI will hallucinate. It will make mistakes. Where you come back into is bringing this sense of what my grandfather would have called street smarts. Your ability to almost like smell and taste when something doesn't quite feel right. That's your humanness, your curiosity. But when we combine this, the AI, with our ability to be creative and curious and ask questions, it provides powerful new things. The other big area, obviously, is around financial services. And in financial services, many of my clients are using augmented coding today. So I know we have folks here from Microsoft. They have things like Copilot. This allows the human engineer to be able to quickly understand the code that they're reading. For example, much code in banking was written 20, 30 years ago. It's not the code that engineers are writing in anymore. Today, company engineers that are using things like Microsoft Copilot, these technologies are writing 40% of their code. This is allowing them as the humans to focus on those most difficult tasks. In fact, even this keynote today is using super creativity, human plus machine creative collaboration. I'm going to show you something just now that will increase your chances of closing deals. Before I ever have to give a sales presentation, I use an artificial intelligence to analyze the people in the room before I ever step in front of them. Why do I do this? Well, because if you're trying to do a sales deal, and you're meeting with someone, maybe meeting for the first time, you do some research on them, but really what you want to know is how does this person think? What are their hot buttons? What is going to make them buy? So using artificial intelligence, you can analyze any decision maker before you ever step in the room and sell to them. It's very easy to do today. All you need is 1,000 words that someone's spoken or they've written. So for example, the other day, I was having to give a sales presentation to a CEO in New York. I'd never met this CEO. We'd had an email correspondence. He'd written an article for his trade magazine, and I can give that data to an AI. And this is what it creates for me. It immediately creates the psychometric profile of that person that I'm trying to influence in the room. So in this case, I could see this person values practicality very highly. So in my sales pitch to him, I'm going to be giving more practical examples of how my product or service could be applied to his business. I could see he's authority challenging. He's going to push back. So I need to be prepared for that, the Q&A section. I could see he values trust very highly, 99%. So I'm going to use more social proof, more case studies to pitch to someone like this. Then what I can do is I can give the AI my draft PowerPoint or my sales script, and it will analyze that. And then when I overlay the psychometrics of the presentation that I'm going to be giving or my pitch and the psychometrics of the person in the room that I'm trying to get to buy from me, I can see the gaps. So I can immediately see here, this is a New York CEO. Big, bold, brash. I'm British. I'm a little bit more reserved. But for me to connect with this person, I'm going to have to amplify things a little bit more than I would usually do. For the person in the room, for the person on the other side, it's going to feel like magic. It's going to feel like, wow, this person really understands me, really gets me. But it's not magic. It's just data. You know, why shouldn't everyone use a tool like this to be able to augment them in the work that they do in sales? Now, here's the thing. The AI will not write your next sales presentation for you, but it will make you a better presenter of your ideas. Human plus machine creative collaboration, super creativity at work. I find this amazing. What an incredible time in history we're living in. Imagine the kind of things that you could do when you can combine your humanity, your curiosity, your creativity with these exponential technologies. But in order to do this, we need to do different things, and we need to do things differently. When companies bring me in, they bring me in to unlock the creative potential of their people, to break down silos, to help them generate the ideas that are going to help them innovate in the organization. My clients come from all different kinds of industries, from technology, financial services, banking, retail. Some of you are represented here in this room today. And in the final few moments, what I thought I would do is give you some real actionable tools that you can take away to unlock your own creative collaboration in yourself and your team and your organization. One of the frameworks that I use in helping companies accelerate innovation is what I call the 6 Ps. And we don't have time to cover them all today. I'm just going to teach you 2. One is process, which is how you and your team generate and develop and execute on your ideas. And the other is place, which is where you and your people generate and execute on ideas. Now, here's the thing about process. Only 16% of your ideas will ever come when you're sitting at your desk. Most ideas don't happen there. It's why coming to this IncomeX event is so important, because it gets you away from your usual workspace. It has you meeting people, exchanging ideas. In fact, even color can affect your levels of creativity. A recent study by the University of Berlin discovered the best color to have around you if you want to generate ideas is the color green. It's one of the reasons you will often get your best ideas when you're out in nature, and that color is activating your brain. Today, many of my clients are changing their office spaces, having more green spaces in them, doing more walk and talk meetings. Ideas will most likely come to you during low-level physical activity. How many people here get their best ideas in the shower in the morning? Or the ideas come easiest to them? They have these ideas. Okay, so quite a few of you. So it's hopefully not together. So here's what's happening. In the morning, you've been thinking about something the night before, a problem. Thomas Edison said, never go to sleep without a request to your subconscious. At West Point Military School in America, we teach preloading, which is this idea about 2 hours before you go to sleep at night, get used to asking yourself open-ended questions. What is that one thing I could do to drive revenues in this part of the business? What is that one thing I could do to improve that relationship with my son and my daughter? See, overnight, your brain will incubate. In the morning, your brain is fuzzy, is unwound. You're open to unconventional thoughts. Alpha waves are rippling through your brain, directing your attention inwards to remote associations that emanate from the right hemisphere. Also, that part of the brain that says, that's a stupid idea, that hasn't woken up yet. So try it. For the next week or so, 2 hours before you go to sleep at night, start asking yourself open-ended questions. Your brain will incubate, and often in the morning, you'll find you're generating more ideas. Even what you eat and drink can affect your ability to generate ideas. I'm going to say something that's going to get me in a lot of trouble here in Bogota in Colombia. So there was recently a study done the other day by Martha Farrar, who's a neuroscience professor from the University of Pennsylvania. She found that high levels of caffeine, coffee, will reduce the numbers of ideas that you generate. Bad news. But it's not entirely the truth. But you see, there's nothing wrong with coffee. If we think about creative process, caffeine is very useful for the first stage of the creative process, and is also very useful for the last stage of the creative process. But in the middle stages, when you're wanting to be expansive in your thinking, all the studies show is we need to dial down the coffee a little bit. But perhaps the biggest tip that I can give you to improve your creative collaboration in your organization is how you do your brainstorming or your ideation sessions with your team. I came here yesterday and I was chatting to the lady on the flight sitting across from me, and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I work with companies, big companies, on creativity, innovation, AI." And she said, "Oh, we work at a very creative company. We have brainstorming sessions." Okay? Unfortunately, most companies do brainstorming wrong. Inevitably, what happens if you go into a brainstorming session, you go in there, there's one man, it's usually a man, holding the one whiteboard pen in the room. And it's his ideas that end up dominating the board. So we need to get rid of that. I work with a lot of engineers. Everyone should know in advance what is the problem or the opportunity they're coming in to talk about in the brainstorming session. Some people think in advance better. Some people think spur of the moment. When you come into the room, everyone should be given post-it notes, pens. No one should be allowed to dominate the board. But the biggest tip that I can give you to dramatically improve the quality of your brainstorming is this one here. It came from something that Peter Drucker, the great management theorist, said. He said the most common source of mistakes in management decisions is the emphasis on finding the right answer rather than asking the right question. See, when we go into a brainstorming session, the first thing we often do is trying to generate solutions. When all the studies show is we should spend the first 10 minutes of any brainstorming session simply asking questions. Questions. All different kind of questions you can ask. Toyota's 5 whys. Okay, why are we working with this partner? Well, why is cost the main determinant? Why? Who questions? How questions? The big what. What does success look like? If you have 5 people in a room, you'll have 5 different ideas of what success looks like. When you spend that first 10 minutes of your brainstorming session simply asking questions, what you may find is the problem that you thought was the problem is not the main problem. There's something that lies behind that. But here's the final thing. To improve the quality of creative collaboration, if you want to really drive innovation around AI, is how you design your physical spaces. You see, even the space in which you work can affect the ideas that you generate. We sometimes have this term, it's called a third place. A third place is someone that's not your desk, usual workspace, and not your home. It's a middle place where we come together to collaborate and to generate ideas. For example, 2,500 years ago, you had the symposium. Symposium just comes from the Greek word, which means to drink together. Because the Greeks weren't stupid, they knew that a little bit of alcohol could be quite conducive to the creative process. This is events where people would come together. In fact, this event we're at just now is a modern version of the symposium. Today, we're seeing these kind of third places in more the metaverse. My client, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, does many of their brainstorming sessions now in these virtual circular spaces. Because what you will find is many of these spaces, they employ the use of circles. For my wife and I, This is one of ours. This is in New York. This is Bemelman's Bar on Manhattan's Upper East Side. Every August, my wife and I go there. We kind of have a few cocktails. We generate ideas. We write them on the back of the bar napkins. So here's the thing. Where are your third places? Where are those places that you go to generate your ideas? Where are those places that you feel more inspired? It's sometimes referred to as the genius loci. Places themselves can have their own creative genius. They can spur creativity and innovation. Most of my companies I work with today, from big banks to companies like IBM, Red Hat, to W.L. Gore, are completely redesigning their office spaces because we don't need offices to go and do emails or to do document review. So what is the point of an office now? Why do we go to offices? They are for developing the culture of an organization and allowing us to create a space, a third space, for these creative ideas. And I'll contrast that, these innovative, creative, collaborative spaces, with this room here. This is number 10 Downing Street in London. This is where the British Prime Minister makes his decisions with his ministers. Now look at this. Look at this room. One big long table. No live data anywhere. Lawyers love rooms like this, because those who speak the loudest and most forcefully will win in a room like this. This is a room for command and control, not for collaboration. If you look at some of the most innovative organizations, they're redesigning their spaces today around circles. CERN's Large Hadron Collider, Bloomberg's new billion-dollar building in London, where they have these outside circular tables and then these inside circular tables where people do their individual work. Because here's the thing. If you want to think outside of the box, don't work in a box. Work in a circle. I'll leave you the final story. This is about a game some of you may have heard of. This was the game of Go. Go is an ancient Chinese board game, much more complicated than chess. There are more moves in the game of Go than there are atoms in the universe. It's a beautiful game. Now, this game was between Lee Sedol from South Korea, the world's greatest player of Go, between Google's DeepMind, which is an artificial intelligence lab based in London. Now, the machine, the AI, had learned how to play the game of Go using something called reinforcement learning. But no one expected a machine to do well on a game as complex and as beautiful as Go. But in those first few games, the AI kept winning. But something interesting happened. In game 4, in move 78, Lee Sedol, the human, made a move that was so creative, so innovative, so inspired, it's been dubbed the God's touch. Now, here's my question for you. Would Lee Sedol, the human, have ever made a move like that, have ever moved the game to a completely new level if he hadn't have been challenged by an AI? Because today, we see the world's best players of Go play game after game alongside AI, and we're seeing their world rankings skyrocket, because I believe these technologies will actually unlock something of our true human creative potential. Because as someone like Carlos Sims said, competition makes you better, always, always makes you better, even if your competitor wins. In this room today could be someone who's going to revolutionize your field, your industry. That person could be sitting next to you just now. That person could be you. And the first step is to simply embrace the humanness, the creativity, the curiosity that you were born with. It's about being comfortable and just saying, I am creative. But the next step is to augment it with other people and machines. So you can say, we are super collaborative. My name is James Taylor, and it's been my great pleasure speaking for you today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
James, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Welcome to Colombia and the VBS again. Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias, James. Excelente. Esperamos que haya sido de su agrado.